Hey everybody, welcome to Garrett's Games and Geekiness, a podcast as well as this YouTube channel where we talk about board games. My name's Doug.
My name's Shelley.
And we are here to talk about a particular game this time. It is Tea Garden. That is from Albi as well as pre-order right now from Capstone Games. It is designed by Tomas Holek and it is pretty darn great.
We love this game.
We really like this game. We've talked about a previous game by this designer, which was Galileo Galilei, so you can go and check that out in our YouTube feed. We also talked about it on the podcast too. We really like that one. He actually had 3 different games that came out this year. This one, Tea Garden, Galileo Galilei, and one we have yet to play, but we're going to play in the next couple of weeks, which is SETI from Czech Games Edition. So those 3, it's going to be interesting to compare and contrast to those. Before we start talking about this game, though, remember you can subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Head over to garrettsgames.com for subscribing and listening to the podcast. And then, of course, it's great if you can sponsor us at patreon.com/garrettsgames or, and we have done quite the shelf clearing. We have a bunch of games on that list that's down in the show notes. List of games that no longer fit on our table. List of games that no longer fit on our shelves, but belong on your table, okay? Check out that list of games. It's a great way to help the podcast and get new games to your table that just didn't work for us, or, it's like, oh, we got so many new games, we got to keep playing those. So
many of these we'd had for many years because we loved them so much, but we were like, we have to make space.
Got to make space, exactly. So without further ado, it's time for Tea Garden. So in Tea Garden, we are in the Yunnan Mountains here, and we are going to be trying to cultivate the best tea. We each have a player board here, so 2 different player boards. We have our tea gardens, which are represented by the pagodas in the various areas. We have each a set of cards, 11 cards that are for each player. So everybody has a set of cards. They all have a fan color that is the same color as somebody's actions. I should put out my pagodas here because mine go across the top of my player board as well.
Definitely.
You notice that you've got baskets where the tea leaves go, and we start with 2 tea leaves that are green tea leaves. Notice then you can flip them over when they get fermented. So we'll talk about that as we go. So on a turn, what you're going to be doing is playing a number of cards down to each of the little 4 slots. So this is 1, 2, 3 free turns in each of 5 rounds. And you can also pay tea leaves to then have a 4th turn in a round as well. All right. So what are the different things that you're going to do? Well, you are going to have main actions. Shelley's going to cover the secondary actions, but I'll cover the main actions here. The main actions, when you play cards, and here are the cards, you can see their strength is that red number up in the upper left corner. So you can play a certain number of cards, and you only have 4 at the start, so you have a little bit less power because the cards are only of 1 or 2 strength at the start. You so you're going to play cards to possibly buy an action card down here. The strength that you have to have is listed here on the board. These, of course, slide down and get less expensive as new ones come in. So I'd have to have a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 strength to be able to purchase these, as well as that on some of the cards, you can see in the middle, it has a teapot. And the cards have further requirements, again, on the bottom of them. So this one here, let me see, make sure that it's in frame. If I wanted to get it, I could play this 1 strength card. It needs a teapot. Gray means of any color. Okay, there's gray, yeah. As well as paying 3 1 level or better leaves. So I couldn't do this at the start of my turn. I could, however, if I had had a blue teapot, I could do this one because it needs just 2 levels, and I start with 2 2-level leaves, all right? And I need a blue pot. So I could take this one. any of these that you buy are going to be end game scoring. Purple is end game scoring. These go into your hand, so it's a way of building out your hand and keeping playing, so having more strength as you go forward. The second thing that you can do on a turn is you could build one of your tea gardens, and you can build it into an adjoining area to where you currently are, or pay 2 more strength to skip an area and get into another spot. By doing that, I then say I do that, I would have to be able to, no, I wouldn't want to take that one, that's way too expensive. I could have to pay 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 in strength to be able to do the put a tea garden out. So I pay in strength with the cards that I play, and then I get to put a tea garden out. All right? That's going to come in handy, so I'm just going to put a couple of these out. So say Shelley later on is going to build one of those, and we'll talk about what happens, because those are dealt with at the end when we do maintenance. All right, the third thing that I can do is sell tea to the caravans. So these caravans, you have to fulfill both of the 2 requirements at one or the other level to be able to get these things. So this would be given 2 tea, 2 green leaves, regardless of value, to draw another card, or 4 tea leaves to draw a card and then remove a card, because you're doing a little bit of deck building here and you want to just keep the best cards in your draw pile or your discard pile for further rounds. And then, if I had put down a strength of 2 or 3, I'm going to get 4 points immediately. Gray means immediately. Or 4 or more strength, I would get 5 points and one of the Emperor tokens. More on that in a minute. All right? So that is the third thing. The fourth thing you can do is ferment your leaves. So if I wanted to, not the best move at the start,
no,
but if I wanted to, for every strength that I play in my card, so if I had these, I could play these 2 cards down, and that's 2 strength, and then I could, for every strength, ferment a leaf. All right, so you might want to do that, because some things later on, especially in the caravans, they want fermented leaves to be able to achieve some of these cards.
And also to have this extra action.
And also the extra action requires at least one fermented leaf. Thanks, hon. And then finally, the other thing I can do is do an extra leaf harvest. Between rounds, after everybody's done an action, we do a leaf harvest, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But an extra leaf harvest would be, just like with fermentation, for each power or level of strength that I add. So notice I have 1, 2, 3 areas. If I put out 3 strength, I would harvest. I'd get 1 leaf in a value 2 and 2 leaves, 1 each here, in value 3 into my area. So that's a way of getting extra leaves when you want to do something else, because most of the things require spending leaves to be able to do that. So those are the 5 main actions that you've got. And notice that is all on this little cheat sheet. It isn't anywhere on the board necessarily. You need to know those things and use a cheat sheet, because the stuff on the cards, I used one of those, has these teapots, or as Shelley's about to talk about, they have the secondary actions. Exactly.
So the ones that have rings around them provide you with a secondary action if you play them on top. So if I had these 2 cards, for example, and I put them like this card would mean I would get this extra secondary action at the end of my turn, and I would have a power of 2. So basically those actions are, for this one, it's a teacup. And the teacup allows you to get these picked up off the board depending on where your pagoda is, and you can see they give you certain things when you connect them with other ones that line up in terms of the correct color. So if you can line them up with the correct color, because you're taking from the regions in which you're at, then you're going to activate them, and you can take this when you need it. So that'll be a secondary action that you could have on your turn.
Goes on.
You would have already bought a card or done all the other things that Doug had mentioned, one of those things. But you would also get to do that if you had the teacup on top.
Now, I should say, before Shell goes on, you get this little teacup even if the symbols don't match. And then when you take this off, you could choose either one of these 2 actions, which is on either side. The nice thing about the matching is that you get a little bonus bump in endgame scoring for every matching little one that you've got.
Yeah.
So you've got that.
And then, of course, the other one you could do is if you had the boat on the top, you would still get to do the major action, but you would get to do the secondary action of moving down here. And each time you do that, you're going to get some specific things. This one gives you one leaf at a level 2. This one gives you a pagoda, emperor and a basket, a wild basket.
Shelley calls them baskets. These are the teapots. Shelley's the tea drinker, and she keeps on calling them baskets, which I think is hilarious. Yeah, so a wild
right,
teapot.
I'm sorry, that's right. Well, this is your basket over here.
Right, exactly.
And then you also have this one, which represents this area
This
over
is
here.
the tea university.
Yes,
where you're learning about tea
and how to grow it, I suppose.
Exactly.
And so you'll move around here, and you can move, and you'll stand in between the two things, and you can pick one of the ones that you would like. So either 3 leaves at level 2, or you could ferment two leaves.
Yeah. The cool thing about this is as this moves around, once you get back to the starting spot and cross the start, you then take one of your other guys and they go in the middle, and now that's going to score 10 points at the end of the game. And also wherever you end with the guy who's moving around, there could be 2, 4, or 6 points as well. So
and along the river there's points, and of course you get great things as you keep going. You can get up to 25 points if you get all the way down here, which you did that once very successfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the secondary action.
Yeah.
But then if you did those, that would maybe mean that you didn't get to make a card. Maybe you didn't get to pick up a card because maybe you didn't have any teapots.
Right. Now, teapots, there's a free thing where you could spend 3 tea leaves or 2 fermented tea leaves, and then you can have a pot, just a one immediately when you need it. It's not like you get one of those scrolls, but you just get it, and you can use that as an alternative way, rather than having a teapot, face up in your area.
And that's called a free action, and that's on here too. So those are things that you can do before, middle, whenever you want to do them.
Yes.
So that's helpful. You do before you take your turn, after you take your turn.
Yeah, these are actually just added actions,
needed,
right? So yeah, you can do that. You can make that. You can always use one of these cups that's between something, right? You can spend 3 fermented leaves to do one of those secondary actions, moving the boat, moving here, or taking a cup, to do that a second time, which you can do as well when you get one of these little scrolls. You spend it one time. You can also do what probably the big thing, which is you're trying to collect these emperor tokens, and when you get 2 of them, and then depending upon where you are on the emperor track, you have to spend a leaf of value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 as you move up this track, and every other one gives you one of these emperor cards, which have end game scoring bonuses, as well as going into your hand and work as a pretty powerful, usually 2s or 3s in terms of strength, as you play those out. Notice some of them give you a choice between the secondary action you're doing, give you some fermentation. This one is just 12 points at the end of the game. This one would give you 3 points for every fermented leaf that you have at the end, to a maximum of 6. And then this one gives you 3 points for every card that has the cup secondary action on it. So that's that. You're also having the removal. And by the way, key thing, because Shelley thought that she had to remove cards from her deck. It is a can, not a must.
Because whenever you pick up these cards, you're going to get victory points, and whenever you get rid of the ones from your hand, which aren't as powerful, those have no victory points on them. So these tend to be the ones you want to get rid of. However, if you've already played all your cards down, or most of them, you have to only be discarding from your discard or your hand.
Or your hand.
Exactly. You can't do the ones you already have played down.
Exactly, that's very true.
So, you want to do those at the right time.
Right, definitely. And then, of course, it gives you a +1 in strength that you can add temporarily and stuff like that. So you're playing through each of the rounds, playing 3 or 4 actions every round. And it really has a nice flow to it. And those are the things. Now, at the end of a round, when everybody has finished, you're either not going to do a 4 fourth, or everybody's done their 3 actions. Then you have the maintenance phase. You move the round marker, you pass the starting player, so the person who basically in a 2-player game ended the round is going to start the next round, which could be good. You get rid of the lowest card in the action card display. You get rid of the cards that you played, put them in your discard pile. Then you ripen your tea leaves that you have left. All green tea moves and gets less good.
Which could fall off even, right?
Whereas if it is fermented, it gets better because you're aging it. It's like good, fine wine, right? Exactly. And then on the board, your tea gardens are key because then you're going to get 2 leaves for each of your tea gardens at the strength of the area in which your tea garden is. So Shelley's going to get two green leaves, 2 green leaves at value 2 and 2 green leaves at value 3, whereas I'm going to get two 2s and 4 3s. And those will go in after you've done the ripening, which is key. So you're not going to lose them almost immediately. And then finally, you draw 4 cards and you're ready to start the next round. That is the way the game goes.
And it's 5 rounds and you're done.
Exactly. Okay, so we kind of have already intimated what we think of this game. Mm-hmm. But what do you think, hon?
I love this game. It is amazing. It's so much fun. Just the whole balance of it, it starts out, it goes so fast, because initially you can only do so many things.
Right.
Then the actions take longer as you go down.
And you got those choices, angst.
And you're trying to keep getting cards in your hand so that you can keep playing, because technically you could use many cards in one column.
Right, exactly.
So, it depends on what you're trying to do.
And the strength that you want to achieve,
over here where it needs many cards, or it needs a higher value.
Right.
Or maybe you'd like to get one of these higher valued cards.
Yes,
over
exactly.
here. So it's a great thing.
It really is. What I like and what I think we both recognize is by the second and third plays of this, we're like, oh my gosh, this is really going quickly.
Oh my goodness,
and once we know the main actions, you really have an idea that while the other person or people are playing, you're like, okay, these are my options, and you've got your options and your possibilities of what you're going to do.
Right.
I can definitely get an action card, and I want to do that, but I also want to make sure that I put out a tea garden before the end of this round so that I get more of those tea leaves and I'm ready to go for that next round, and I've got a bunch of stuff ready to go. But that angst of, oh man, you are a little bit at the mercy of your draw, because sometimes you get a bad hand, but then, get a new action card or work your way towards an emperor card.
Getting a spot where you
can draw cards. Exactly.
Draw a card, discard a card.
Right. And that's, I should say, one of the things that happens when you put out your tea garden is there's little tokens, and those are randomized, and you get something when you build your tea garden as well, and as well as the tea that you then harvest when you have the harvest phase during maintenance. This is a solid middle to middle heavy game. I think, in thinking of this and Galileo Galilei, I would actually put this in terms of complexity. Yeah, slightly easier.
Slightly easier.
Yeah. But they both scratch that itch of just really interesting combinations of possibilities as you're going through here. Yeah. Really like it.
Yeah. So it's a great game.
Really great game. So again, that is Tea Garden from Tomas Holek and Albi, and it is forthcoming from Capstone as well. It is for 2 to 4 players. Says 90 minutes on the box. We got our later plays in under an hour.
Yeah.
And it has a 12 plus rating on the box. Really solid stuff. Definitely recommend it. Hey, sponsor the podcast. Subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We hope as this year winds down, the new year starts out really strongly for you. Have a great one. Take care of yourselves. Play some more games. Have some fun. We'll see you later. Bye.